Lincoln County Board of Education on Tuesday, November 21st at 7 p.m. and we're at the county office in Hamlin. This time I'm going to ask Board Member Butchie Burns to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Butchie Burns.
Very welcome.
At this time, we have Stephen McCloskey, who has signed up to speak to the board. Stephen, if you come forward, the open meeting laws tells us that we listen, but we don't comment as a board on what you have to say. And we have a time limit of 3 minutes. That's not much, I know, but
I can make it happen.
go ahead.
Okay, so I'm actually coming here tonight over a deep concern about bullying and in the schools. Here recently, my daughter got in a physical fight due to the fact of 2 years of harassment. This incident has been going on for several years, and despite our previous attempts to address them, the situation has not improved and resulted in a physical altercation. I want to emphasize that my primary goal is to ensure a safe, supportive education environment for all students. West Virginia State Code subsection 61-2-9A is the state law for harassment, with subsection B describing the state punishment for harassment, while subsection 4 provides the definition of what harassment is. Furthermore, the West Virginia State Board of Education Policy 4373 and West Virginia State Code subsection 18-2C-1 require county boards of education to establish a policy prohibiting harassment, intimidation, or bullying using a process that includes representation. Just to give you a background, just statements. My daughter has had this one kid that has multiple times that she's actually been harassed by the girl. And there's statements here of proof, along with the video footage of the altercation where the girl tried to stab my daughter with a pencil after my daughter confronted her for talking about her. This has been going on for 2 years. This girl has hid her shoes, tried to stop her from doing recreational sports, multiple things, and it's been brought to teachers, principals, and coaches. This past year in 2022 to 2023, we brought it all the way up to principal. 2023 to 2024, it's only brought up to the 2 coaches. It came up to a fight. My daughter ended up getting 3 days suspension. After 3 days, they reviewed it and they gave her 2 extra days while the girl only got 1. According to policy, as the policy states, if there's an altercation or a fight, both individuals are supposed to be treated equally and suspended for the same amount of time. All this is about, I'm coming here, is that harassment is a form of bullying, and the harassment part is not being addressed. Whether it's either talking about other kids to the point that they feel uncomfortable at environments, or it's actually taking their stuff and hiding it so they can't participate in recreational activities. Those events need to be addressed just as someone physically bullying someone. Because what ends up happening, these kids feel like they have no way out, and then when they can't trust the faculty or staff, they lash out, and they get in a fight. Now, this isn't trying to minimize anything. This is just trying to stop future events, because this is the same thing that's happened from several parents that wrote me and said the same thing happened to their kid. So we're having an issue with harassment as the main part of bullying, and it's being overlooked by our faculty. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you aware of this
situation? Not until he called.
Mr. McCloskey? One question, have you contacted school officials about this?
Just this week.
This
Yeah.
week.
Okay,
And-
all right, that's
yeah.
all I needed to know. Mr. Barnett's on top of it. All
And
right, thank
like I
you.
said, I want to actually end up dropping a copy of this off as well to the principals, assistant principal, and also the council at the school, so they are fully aware of everything going on, even though it's been reported. And I will be mailing this as a certified mail to the school. That way I know they got a hold of it.
Could you also, the copies you gave me earlier today, the pictures are in black and white, and I can see nothing.
Okay,
If you
well,
could,
I got the colors. I'll make a color copy.
thank you, because I can't see.
Okay.
All right,
One
thank
old
you.
man.
All right, at this time, I want to take a second and wish our CFO a happy birthday. Austin Lucas, we're not going to sing to you, but hope you have a good one.
29, I know.
Okay, at this time, we have a presentation from the principal at Guyan Valley High School on the Local School Improvement Council. Principal Porter, would you come forward, please, and give your presentation? Welcome to the board.
Yes.
So we were given an outline to follow to kind of streamline everything. So that's what I went with. Naturally, I would like to provide more of videos or pictures to kind of give you a good view of what's really happening in our schools, because it's really hard to get a picture from the words. However, everyone has a copy that thankfully Miss Adams helped me print and distribute out. So we'll start with our basic enrollment. I know that our enrollment has been, it's decreased from last year, but that is mostly mostly due to the fact that our 8th grade was a larger class and our 6th grade is a smaller class, and we do fluctuate. But along with everyone in the state, we do have a decrease in enrollment. We are at 207 students currently for grades 6 through 8. We are considered 68% low SES, which is higher than the county's average of 64%, I believe. We are considered 29% homeless, which would be mainly those students that are considered doubled up, which means they live with not just their own guardian, but another family also. And then we are 22% special ed, which is actually a number that has decreased significantly in the last 3 years for us.
Pardon me, you say decreased or increased?
Decreased.
Decreased, okay.
Yes. So far this year, I've had 45 suspensions with 34 different students. So some repeat offenders for the 45 suspensions. We have had 209 discipline referrals throughout the year and 3 expulsions. We have 1 possible pending that we're currently investigating, but 3 positive ones. So then if you look at narrative or the strategies to improve our test scores, like everyone in the county, we're utilizing iReady and the data that iReady gives us to drive our instruction, to see what weaknesses we need to address for tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 interventions. And I found by tracking the data of our students for iReady plus their GSA scores that it is pretty close to on target. I do think that our kids tend to score better in math on the GSA and worse in English on the GSA in comparison to what we thought they would score by looking at iReady data alone. That was just for 2 years. Obviously, that's not enough to make a broad statement, but that looks like what we're trending for. So currently we have had, I've asked Ms. Shortridge to come to our building, and she has several occasions to help out with our staff and provide instruction and training for our new teachers for the different types of technology, instruction, textbooks, curriculum. We throw a lot of different things at our teachers and expect them to be able to utilize them efficiently in the classrooms, but without appropriate training, they simply cannot. They don't have the time to go through it all. So thankfully, Ms. Shortridge, and then we have a couple people from Carnegie Learning, Jack Crum and Renee, that come out to our schools and they work with our staff on their planning periods before and after school. And then also Sarah Dunlap and Lisa Hyndman have been in our building a lot, helping with our staff. So this year, there was not a PBIS team for positive behavior intervention support. There was not a PBIS team already established at Guyan Valley. So we signed up to join PBIS, and we are in the pre-level this first semester. So we have spent a lot of time with Tyrell Jones coming out, working with our staff individually in groups and trying to create our own policy norms, habits that our staff support to then help with our students. And then come January, we'll actually be in the first level of PBIS. So some other things that we were doing to really improve test scores is that I did purchase a MathStream through our instructional funds this year. And MathStream is a way, I went to a Carnegie Learning Institute over the summer, and I was really impressed with MathStream. It was significantly cheaper than a lot of the curriculums that they share. There were no software involved that kids had to learn how to log into a new software, adapt to a new software. And our kids love things like TikTok and Discord. So I wanted to try to find something that was similar to what they love, but was giving them the math instruction that they were missing. So when my teachers have small group rotations twice a week, they can do one group will be working on their iReady that is based off of where they are individually in math. And then the other group can do Math Stream, which can either be assigned by the teacher for the current level that they should be on, or a weakness that the student has identified through iReady, or it could be a pre-learning strategy for the upcoming lesson for the next day. And it is a TikTok influencer that is a math teacher, very popular, and they're giving them their math instruction in the form that kids already like. So only a few classes have had the chance to try it out so far. We have training on December 12th with the rest of the math teachers, and I really think that our kids will enjoy just, we're trying to meet them somewhere that they're comfortable at. So I think they'll try to meet us a little bit more. I also implemented the school library, and I know that may sound odd that I've implemented, but it doesn't really exist in a lot of schools I have found. But we have purchased, I would say, $4,000 worth of books over the last 2 years. And those books are books that the students requested. So they're not books that they already are reading in their classrooms for English. They are books on their level that they requested. And the library has bean bags and a few couches and rugs, and the kids can go in there before school. They can go in there on their lunch, recess time. And then at the end of the day, we do have an after-school program where the after-school tutor can take them in there as well. I would say at this point, we have 10 pages of students checking out books and returning them. And every day there's more books that are wrote on my whiteboard that kids want me to purchase for them to check out. So to me, that was a huge win that I'm hoping we'll see in our English scores come the end of the year. So currently, for our strategic plan, our mathematics goal is to increase proficiency to 20%. We were at 14% last school year. The school year before that, we were at 10%. And the school year before that, we were at 9%. Our English proficiency, we're hoping to increase to 30%. We were at 23% last school year. Our attendance goal is to be at 92%. We were at 91.1% last year. Our attendance is usually not terrible, but this year we have seen a significant increase in the amount of students attending school and a significant decrease in chronically absent students. So when polled with, students, why are you coming more now than before, that kind of thing, most of the answers revolve around their CTE class.
What about your teachers chronically absent? Is that reflected in the same?
Yes, I do think that our teachers are less chronically absent this year than last year. I don't have a quote of data for you, but I can tell that, those meetings that you would have to have with teachers that have more than 7 days already, that's not anywhere near what it had been the previous.
It's good. Seems to me that the kids sort of look at the teachers, the teacher's not there half the time, then I think it really reflects a lot.
Oh, it
I think
does.
that's too.
Yeah.
And then we have a fourth goal, unlike some of the schools, but this one was from our special education subgroup, and it's to try to increase their proficiency rating in math and English as a special education subgroup. Last year and the year before, they were at 0.04% proficient, and our goal is to get to 2%. Some of the things that we have done specifically for that is that when I became principal, I didn't have any certified special education teachers. I had one half day who was a great special education teacher, but the second half of the day, she's the vision specialist for the county. And then I had 3 full-times that needed to be filled with subs. So since then, I have been able to recruit 3 people in the alternative certification I teach program for special education.
You may not know this off the top of your head, but going back to that 22% of special ed. What's the makeup of, I don't know what your terminology is in this day and time, but it was LD versus EMI, back years ago.
Mhm.
How, LD students, how many of those do you have in that number? You know, or it's unfair for me to ask you that, but
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I do know that we do not have any students that are self-contained in a classroom all day long. And all of our students receive general instruction in terms of their related arts classes, all of them.
So that whole 22% is in the what you would consider to be LD.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're getting regular math and,
No, they get direct instruction for math and English.
English.
And some, very few, a smaller number, would have direct instruction for science and social studies. We're actually trying to reduce that number down to as low as possible for science and social studies to have those children in the general education classroom. But some of our special ed students are also in co-teaching classrooms. So that's when it's a general ed classroom. But you also have a special education teacher in the room to where you cannot, most of the time, 70% of your classroom students would be without an IEP, 30% with an IEP, most of the time. Then we have, I would say, 30 out of our 46 kids that have an IEP, 28 to 30 would be in direct instruction, special education for math and English. Meaning that they are in a classroom with a special education teacher and only special education students for math and English. But they do go out for music, for PE
yeah.
and art.
Now, Mr. Barnett, one of the wisest things he's said since he's been here, and he said a lot of them, but he said that we take our special ed kids and give them less instruction. We don't demand as much out of them because of these IEPs, and yet we turn around and require them to take the same test that everybody else is taking, which means if they're operating on a daily basis in math, 2 grade levels below what they're getting, it's just totally unfair to the kid, to the school, to everybody. Now, obviously, we'd like to have them all on level, and that's where the iReady, I think, is going to help. But is there I'm not familiar with scheduling now in the middle schools, but is there time to give them both the regular math that they get all the 4th graders are getting, plus the direct instruction from an LD math teacher?
Yes, actually, the curriculum that we purchased for our special education it's on grade level. It is grade level curriculum that their special education teacher is teaching them.
Okay,
So they are learning the same standards in 7th grade special education direct math classroom that a 7th grade student in Miss Ashley Wilson's classroom are learning. They're the same standards. Now, are they going to be at the same depth and the same level, or are they going to, go through the pacing guide just as fast? No, but the purpose of this curriculum is to help our teachers teach that grade level content at a level that our students can intake.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, one other thing, TikTok. I don't know anything about TikTok other than I see it, but I've read some articles about TikTok, and it's the boogeyman sort of, that is a Chinese monitored program, and they're mining data. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, and this program is not TikTok. It is just in the form of little segments and a type of moderator to say.
So it's
that
not the
gives them
official
content
TikTok.
To, that
Okay,
they watch every day on TikTok. That's all.
it's a TikTok-like program.
Right, it's just to
Okay.
give the content
Okay.
the way they already consume.
Okay, thank you.
Um, Then for our strategic plan, I went over our proficiency standards currently, but for CTE, I did create and implement the CTE program, Wildcat Corporations at Guyan Valley Middle School. Every student in our building attends a CTE course that they chose at the end of every day for 30 minutes. And some students, even though I did call home and I did reach out through, multiple ways to try to get their choices from them, because they were able to give me 3 choices of placements, and then I tried my best to make sure that everyone fell in the one they liked. A few, I didn't get answers back, However, at the semester, they have the opportunity to stay where they are or request a different placement for their CTE. And I really do think that this program has changed the way a lot of our kids look at our building, our community, the events that we hold, our teachers, and the time and effort that our teachers put into these events that they tend to discredit just because they don't think about everything that goes into them. Just something as simple as an 8th grade night. When a teacher volunteers to be over 8th grade night, they're not doing that during their work day when they're teaching. That's stuff that they're doing extra. So in my CTE program, GVMS is the simulated workplace. I meet, me personally, with a manager that was chosen by the facilitator, which is the teacher, and the students in every CTE. I meet with the managers every Monday. And we have a meeting and we have a review of the projects that are upcoming, what tasks they are to work on, and also any concerns that they have, or any discussions that they feel that we need to address. So the 8th grade night, we would say, okay, basketball 8th grade night's coming up. So then we go down the line to each manager. What are you going to do? What are you bringing? What are you in charge of? So instead of someone making an arch of balloons for the students to walk through, our event planning CTE are in charge of that. And instead of parents donating money to purchase t-shirts or a little knick-knack that says, GVMS 2023 on it, our Wildcat Designs create them. And if there is a production cost, then it's very minimal to the parents, and it's paid to our CTE group just to provide the materials to create them. The kids have really ran with this part of it. If you've seen any of our broadcast videos that I've shared, those are solely created by our students during CTE. And honestly, the biggest complaint that I have found is that it's not long enough. They don't like that it's only 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So to me, that says that there's something they like about school.
Okay, how long is your school day over there? I know you're required 2:30.
Yes, our day starts at 8:05 or 8:10 technically, and we end at 3:30.
How many minutes is that?
It's more than the required.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's a lot more than required.
Okay, good show.
Hey, are the buses just for your school, or do you share with West Hamlin?
We share,
Okay,
and with Ranger,
okay,
and with the high school, actually.
okay.
Which is why our day is
So
very
long.
long, we have to wait for second runs and then wait for the high school kids. I have applied, and I have won every grant that I wrote for the CTE program. I didn't expect to, but I have, and all of those funding has came through. Is not a decision that I make with what we're doing with the funding. The kids actually, we discuss and we talk about, and we think, what's the best way to spend this money? What type of program do you want to see also? I've spoke to Mr. Barnett that a lot of my girls really requested like a cosmetology program, and not necessarily something that would provide them any type of certifications. I mean, they're in middle school, but just nails and curling hair and makeup, and that's kind of things that they could do on the side in high school for people's proms that we could be teaching our kids to get ahead. So I've spoken to him about perhaps offering that next year to our students, but all these ideas come from the kids.
Why don't you take a field trip down to Cabell County and look at their cosmetology program? Let the kids go down and see that.
Yeah, we would love to.
put in a request.
Okay, we will, especially the kids they're the ones that came to me and were like, we really want to add this. So. The $26,000 grant was from TC Energy. That's the largest grant that we have received by far. And I wrote that grant requesting virtual welders for middle school students, not just a virtual welder that, is at a high school level. This is for a middle school age student. And also a solar energy component that I'm still trying to find the best output, I should say, for that money. And by solar energy, what I mean is our kids look at solar energy like they're not smart enough to create that. So it's not for them, but that's not what we're looking at. We want students that can work on it, that can install the solar panels, that know how to fix the solar panels. And our kids can very much create that and fix them. So I'm looking for kind of a mini size model that is also appropriate for middle school students to purchase with what I have about 10 grand left of the funding that I'm trying to utilize for that purpose. So if you do have any ideas, I'd be welcome to, hear about them.
Don't overlook the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation. They serve Lincoln County, but don't get many applications from Lincoln County. They don't do anything in sports in Lincoln County, but for what you're doing, they might be a nice source of revenue.
Okay, yeah, I will definitely look into it. Thank you. And then for celebrations this year, I just added that, the PBIS reward. So at the end of every 9 weeks, we do have a PBIS activity reward. At the end of the first 9 weeks, it fell at Halloween. So they were able to have a little sock hop Halloween dance in their costumes for the last 2 hours of the school day. And to qualify, they had to have good grades, good discipline, and good attendance. And that's, pretty typical for a PBIS type of reward. Kings Island trip for the students that were proficient on their GSA. Or the only other way is if you totally skipped a level. So if you were 3 grade levels behind and you went up to yellow, then yeah, I'm going to let you go to Kings Island. Like that is a huge incentive. You went from 3 grade levels to behind to almost proficient, like partially proficient would be what yellow is. I think we took 64 kids this year out of about 207. So our kids really look forward to that trip, and it is completely paid as far as the trip, their tickets, and they get meals while they're there also. And then we still give out the brag tags. I think that the students like the brag tags for the different recognition for those things. I've even recently had coaches reach out to me and ask me to create some brag tags to give out to their, teammate of the game, rebounder of the game, those types of things. And I think it's nice when everyone buys into an idea, because it'll put more value on it for the kids. So then for curricular focus, I think that overall, the best way to describe our curricular focus would just be to meet all the needs of our students so they can focus on increasing their academic achievement. So as you were asking about different labels for our special education students, emotionally disturbed children is, that's something that can have you labeled as special education. And due to trauma, we have a high percentage of emotionally disturbed children. And unfortunately, over the last 1.5 years, we didn't have a counselor. This whole year, we've been 2 days social worker here, 2 days social worker there, doing our best to try to take what we have and spread them out. And what that means is that I've been being their counselor and their social worker. So, because I truly believe that until they feel loved, safe, and their Maslow hierarchy of needs are met, they're not going to focus on learning.
Do we have a counselor there now?
December
And that's,
1st.
it's in the back of this. Thankfully, we are hiring one, and she starts December 1st, and we also have a social worker that was hired and starts Monday, full time. Yes.
Okay.
So we also have a QR code that students can scan with their phones or even online when they're home, and it allows them to request virtually items that they would need. So our student services CTE run a clothing pantry, and we also have a food pantry, and they can request if they need deodorant. And then we have community contact and our community and schools coordinator that get those students their items confidentially. Our PLCs, they meet by department twice a month. They focus on data, their pacing guides, what interventions that they have found that students may need to be able to be at the content level that's appropriate. And then we meet the leadership team twice a month, and we tend to discuss what the PLCs have found, and also any overarching ideas that we need to discuss regarding data, discipline concerns, upcoming events, or adjustments that need to be made. As far as the current culture and climate of the school, I included a quote that was from a staff member, because I think that everyone's perception of your school culture is going to be different depending on who you ask. So I have tried numerous times to speak to my staff and ask for their input, because I truly do want their input and their suggestions, and I want them to help me make it better, because I cannot be in all the places all the time. You know, so this was a quote from our community and schools coordinator. The overall atmosphere of Guyan Valley is one of reform. Under the leadership of Dr. Porter, students have shown a noticeable shift in respect toward their education and their school. Student ownership is evident throughout the school, from student coursework on the walls to the lack of profanity within the halls. Contributing factors to this change include Dr. Porter's efforts, directly including but not limited to her inclusion of the community in terms of the LSIC and continued requests for input like the survey recently sent out, her implementation of proven strategies like PBIS and teaching methods as trained by professionals directly from Carnegie, and the career training education that every student ends their day with. This design has led the students to enjoy their time at school, reducing prior attendance issues. Students can now attend school knowing they are safe, as proven by the reduction in suspensions for physical altercations. Ways in which students' needs are unmet are in terms of emotional support. Guyan Valley is vastly understaffed with the ability to handle the emotional needs of the students with high adverse childhood experiences. And that was due to the social worker and counselor. So thankfully, with those two being hired, I really do think that'll make a huge difference. So then there at the bottom, it says, you know, what have we asked for that we've received? What have we asked for that we haven't yet? I did state the social worker and the counselor. I'm very thankful for them. And then also when I first became principal, that there was just a dean of students position at Guyan Valley. And I did request for an assistant principal to help with the discipline and to help with the evaluations. And I was granted that request by the superintendents to have that posted as an assistant principal position. And then what haven't I received yet? I did place a request for doors to create a man trap as you enter Guyan Valley, because I ran into an incident last year where our building is 100 years old, and when it was originally designed, we didn't have as many worries about people entering our building and where they went or what they did once they entered our building. So once you enter our building, you would have to turn right to get to the main office. So usually everybody did that, no problem. You know, they were let in by the video camera and they pushed the button. But once they left the secretary's office, we have no control where they go. You know, we can't really see where they go, because when they walk out the door, we had a parent take it upon themselves to talk to another student in an inappropriate way. Like, just they had no business interacting. But I couldn't help but think that if I could have seen where they were going, they would have just exited. You know, they kind of knew that nobody was able to see, that they didn't just leave the building immediately. So at first, I did address that by moving our main office to right at the top of where you enter. So now when you exit, we can all see. You better turn right and go out the doors. Like, you don't get to hang out. But I would like to have the man trap doors there at the top of the stairs, so it provides a safe space for parents to wait while in the building, while they're waiting for their students, and they do not need to enter the building unless they're going to go through the verification process of signing in and us verifying who you are.
As you're facing the building, is your entrance on the left side?
Yes, sir.
That's the one you're talking about? Okay.
Yeah, and the doors are here. They're just waiting to be installed.
Close to the library over on that end.
Yes, that thing hallway.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I've also requested Wi-Fi and phones to be placed in the basement rooms. And There's no phones or Wi-Fi in those rooms because they weren't previously utilized. But with the addition of CTE, they are utilized, so we do need to have more, widespread Wi-Fi. And it's on the list of things to be done, so.
Okay, do you utilize the whole building, the second floor,
Mhm.
the basement?
Yeah.
With 207 students?
Yep. we do. And then lastly, it's just general maintenance requests, but they're all in line to be processed. Heating updates to locker rooms, coach's office, and then decluttering removal of a lot of unused items through the years that have just been stored there. And electrical issues that have been found with the gym lighting and the field, and plumbing and sewer issues that seem to be ongoing there. But I feel like that's all probably just, 100 years worth of maintenance
The bill.
that need to be addressed, so. And then as you see, you'll see everyone that's for the LSIC, our community members, parents, teachers, and then business partners. And then at the bottom, student safety practices.
Just a comment about the school being so old. I think I've heard somewhere that it's probably the oldest school in the state still being utilized. I was having a conversation at Tutors for breakfast the other morning, and somebody talked about Guyan Valley being so old, and well, it is and it isn't. Part of that building was added on to in the
54.
early 60s.
I think they started like in the 50s.
And then there was another addition added on about 1980, somewhere along in there, that really reconfigured that whole high school from the way it was. The oldest part of that building is what you see when you're looking at it from the front and down that left side. And age, if a building is well kept, I mean, our US Capitol's 250 years old. Old buildings don't necessarily mean they're not adequate, if they're properly maintained. We've got some needs over there. When I drove by, the back of that building looks awful, with all that mildew or stain, whatever. It could be improved a great deal. I think probably the board just needs to concentrate on the appearance of that building a whole lot. And, I see no reason why, because it's 100 years old, that we discard it. We're not going to discard it. We don't have any other alternative. Well, I understand that. I'm just talking out to myself that we probably need to focus some more on that building to get it up to date and maybe more aesthetic, and just pay more attention to it.
Is that no one really utilized those classrooms for 20 years. So if you're not in there every day, you don't know when a leak occurred. You don't know what type of problems are actually there because you're not seeing it every day. So by the time you do see it, it has become a much larger
Yeah.
problem. So the whole building just needed to be utilized more. You're not
Yeah.
heating the whole building all the time. You aren't cooling the whole building all the time. I think that it does need some money invested into it, but a lot less money required to invest to make it better than to
Build
build.
a new school.
The windows jump out at me. I don't know if is there any plans or whatever, but those windows have been there a long time, single pane windows.
Yeah, but the windows aren't they're not that bad, honestly. I think it's the HVAC that would be the biggest cost and the biggest need for the school,
Okay,
because we still have the boiler system.
okay. Well, I'm sure Mr. Barnett's gonna look into this and see what we can get done. Is there anything else that, this board can do for you?
I would invite you to come by the school sometime. Come by, see all the changes and see the kids. And, see the things that they're proud of.
Okay.
I'll take you up on that.
Okay,
Do any of the members have anything else? All right, we appreciate your passion you have for your job over there.
thank
So
you,
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
thank you,
Thank you for coming and spending your time with us this evening.
thank you.
All right, Joni Shortridge. I gotta find my folders.
She switched codes on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Smiling now.
So you grade level.
I asked Mr. Barnett to, have you come and speak to us, really for my benefit. I want to find out more about iReady and what it really means when we get an iReady score
Mhm.
and how we use that information. So, that's the reason you're here. I'd ask for you, so. No, we'd appreciate it if you don't.
Snapshot, but if you have any questions, or if there's something that you want that I didn't provide, I can get that to you, very, fairly quickly. So we use iReady for two things. The first reason that we use it is for the diagnostic. And that is 3 points in time. It's a formative assessment piece that we use to guide our instruction. It's also required now in House Bill 3035 to have a universal screener for K through 3 and eventually K through 8. And it checks that box, which I've got that attitude to show you. But it is approved screener from the State Department. So they do recognize that in House Bill 3035, the Third Grade Success Act. So what I did was I just ran off. We've used iReady. It was before I changed roles. We had a pilot year of 2020, 2021, with 2 schools. So Harts and Midway were part of our pilot. And then, so 2021 to 2022 is the first report that you have. So if you look in the maroon colored folder, that's for math. And then it looks exactly the same in purple, but it's reading. Okay. So, 2021 to 2022, I gave you, all schools the final diagnostic because that was a year where it didn't look very consistent. When you dive into the data, it was our first year using it. And so I gave you that final diagnostic. So what the kids would take at the end of the year as a county, how we scored. And then it broke it down as school. Okay. Then later, I ran off 2022 to 2023 school year for you to compare. And I gave you the beginning of the year diagnostic and the end of the year diagnostic. So that first point in time and then last point in time. And one thing I want to point out is that when the students take the first diagnostic, it's important to relate to our parents that they're graded sometimes on the standards that haven't been taught yet. So it's okay if they're yellow. We just don't want them to be red. And so what we want to see is growth. And I kind of broke it down a little bit for you, just so you didn't have to do a dive. But basically from 2022-23 data, reading, we originally, our baseline was 19% at the beginning of the year, okay, as a county, that's as a whole, K through 8. And then at the end of the year, we grew to 38% proficient on level. That's a 19% growth from the start of the year to the end of the year. So that shows that our teachers are teaching, our kids are getting it, and they're showing some growth. They're not where we want to be. We've got work to do, but those are the results. And then for math, we started at 9% and grew to 31%. So it showed in 1 year. So we had a 22% growth from the start of the year to the end of the year. Okay. And then I gave you the beginning of the year for this school year. And it never looks pretty at the beginning of the year. And so that's why I wanted to kind of point that out. Do we want it to look prettier? Absolutely. We want those kids to, first of all, retain what they've learned through the summer. But we also want them higher to end the year.
Do they
Okay.
test on that first test, first month of school or something?
Yes, we send out an assessment. What we did this year was we sent it out to principals, an assessment calendar. We went ahead and scheduled everything on a teacher's calendar that, so that they can
They
plan
would
their
know.
instruction. It's also noted in the, pacing guides. So we're hoping to see, you know, especially for math, that we're hitting those solid foundational skills. That way, we're gonna show a little bit more growth.
Okay, let me, I don't want to mess up your presentation,
No,
But-
this is,
but what I've been trying to wrestle with is that, let's take a second grader, okay? A student that finished second grade last year. Do you have enough faith in the iReady that when you take that end of the year iReady test and it indicates that that student is, I guess, completed second grade, that he has the second grade skills at the end of the second grade. So that student should be on level.
if I already saying that,
Yes.
am I?
Is that what iReady says?
So, yes, if already saying they're green, they're good, they're on level. What we're seeing is a direct correlation within 1%.
At the end of
At
the
the
year?
end of the year on general summit of how there's,
Okay.
how they will score. It's a very good indicator. There's a lot of research I can provide you too. I've read a lot of educational articles. And then we're part of a research study currently, that we had an MOU signed by, I think it was our previous board, it may have been you guys. It was before me. And I've provided all the secure files and data, and they're studying to see how our students performed this past school year and how it correlated with our iReady.
Okay,
So it's a national study we're a part of.
let's
And I
take
can-
this fictional second grader
Yeah,
who was in the second grade last year.
okay,
He progressed through the year, finished the year at, we'll call it the 2.0 level,
okay,
okay? In May of 2023, that second grader is on level at the end of the year,
okay,
right? He starts back to school in this past August.
okay.
He's given another iReady test. Now, that iReady test is measuring what? Is it measuring where he should be as a third grader? So if that student did not gain any during the summer and he starts taking that test in August, it would show that student is not on the third grade level, but emerging or moving to it.
Correct. It was show yellow, which is 1 grade level or less below. But what that does for our teachers is there's certain reports, like personalized learning reports for each student that they can run that kind of shows them, okay, what standards does this student have? What standards does this student not? So that's the point of that, is that first, it's like a pre-assessment.
Yeah.
And then what I'm meeting with schools and what principals are doing is we're trying to, number one, scaffold information. Because we have a lot of students with skill gaps that are far beyond 1 or 2 grade levels. And we can't spend all of our time reteaching all of first grade and kindergarten. So what we're trying to do is create a practice, research-based strategies that's going to fill in that scaffolding so that they have a foundation to build the skills and master those third grade standards, even though they struggled in kindergarten and first and second grade.
Okay, now let's take this student again. I'm trying to learn myself.
Okay,
We've got this student who starts in August,
right.
and technically, if he didn't lose anything in the summer, he's on the 2.0 level. All right. We teach him all fall, and you're going to test him again in January. If that student is on level, he should be like 2.5 in January if he's on level. Does the iReady give us that data?
Yes,
Okay. So he's on 2.5, and if he's just an average student, by the end of the third grade, he should be on a third grade level.
correct. And
Okay. Now, we can, with what degree of assurance can we say that that 2.5 level in January is accurate?
Research wise, or you're asking my opinion?
Well, no, don't want opinions.
I
Uh,
don't have research
it-
we're a part of a research study currently.
all right, we're facing next year, I believe, that if a student is not on the third grade level by the end of the third grade year, by the state says that student doesn't go on.
That's
Okay,
That is in 2026, and that's your current kindergartners.
all right. Now I just looked at a school, all the data for all those grades in that school for last year, and it showed that there were students on level and students a year behind, and then fewer 2 years behind, and then still fewer 3 years behind. When that data started out in August of this year, there were only 5%, less than 5% of students who were on level. Everybody else was 1, 2, and 3 years behind. Actually, it didn't even show any student on level. All those students were behind. Now, I'm concerned that when that test is given in August, that a school can establish a low baseline. And then anything that's gained during the course of the year is looked like tremendous growth, when reality is they didn't really grow very much at all. If I take that same student, that same score from the year before, it showed those students, many of them on level, some above level in May, but when they tested again in August, they weren't anywhere in the ballpark.
August, it's like a pre-assessment, you would do when you're teaching. So the iReady for August is consider it almost like a pre-assessment. How many kids are already on level that know it? And those are usually your above mastery students on the general summative. Okay,
So-
their scoring is there's a 1% usually correlation at the end of the year.
To
And that's
the
what-
beginning of the year,
At the end of the year with iReady and general summative,
okay,
it's a good predictor of
how they'll do.
score. Right, we take it in April, so in April, we pretty much know, okay, what our scores might look like, and I think principals would tell you the same thing. And that's where you've got to use that data constantly, because the point of August, those 6%, the growth you're speaking of, it's more of just in using it to instruct in a better way than what we've been doing.
That's the whole purpose
That's
of
the
a
point.
diagnostic
Yes.
test.
And
Now,
that's where we're finally on the right track. I think the first couple of years, we used it more of a measurement and we used less of the intervention tools. It's very overwhelming. When you get a new program, I mean, I remember as a teacher and you're trying to learn all these things, it's overwhelming. And so we're finally at the point where teachers understand the reports, they understand their data, they know how to get it fast. And now they're finally diving into really what it can do.
yeah, that's
And that's
been the
the
thing that
conversation.
I've said all along, is that if we take this diagnostic scores and don't do anything with them, all we're doing is buying a test and giving kids. The purpose of this is to instruct better.
Exactly.
I'm excited about this next piece.
That's what I would-
Okay, okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bloviate there.
The point is intervention, right?
Yes, and personalized instruction. There's a very big difference.
Right.
And I'll tell you a success story. We had a school when I was special ed director that wanted to refer almost their entire grade level in SAT to special ed. Okay, and when I really dove in, what I saw was that number one, these kids had been retained in kindergarten. They were that was the COVID year.
COVID year.
And they were very poor performing. They had ability grouped. So they had one really high group of kids and one really low group of kids. And when Miss Lucas, and Sarah and Lisa and I, as the special ed director, went in, we realized that intervention, their understanding of intervention was a little different than what it really is. And they took everything the team kind of put together, and they're probably one of the highest scores in our county currently. And it's all because they soaked it up. They did the intervention and they made the growth. So
Okay.
happy to say there were 0 special ed kids identified, but that's where we've got to get, is understanding intervention. It can be overwhelming. We have a lot of uncertified teachers. We have a lot of new teachers.
Every year.
And then you've got, kids are different. So that's where I feel like that I need to be utilized. If I don't know it, I'll go find it. And Lisa and Sarah, the same. We've sat many times and looked at the data. Sarah and I have had conversations. We realized that our ELA scores are lower because of our writing. That writing score is calculated in with your ELA. And when you really dive into it, we don't have any 4 or 5s on the writing assessment. So that's what Sarah's focusing on now, because writing's hard. It's hard to teach. It's time consuming. It's frustrating. And I've been there many times, and some of the antics you do to try to get kids engaged with writing. But what we have decided is we're using Sarah in that way this year. And she's opened up her calendar. She's going in and modeling lessons for the elementary. We're primarily focusing on 3rd, 4th, and 5th, because that's where you get your foundation. A lot of teachers report that generating ideas is hard now for kids because probably technology and multitude of things. But so that's where we're trying to just use our resources in a way that, number one, we help teachers with time. Time is a problem. They don't have enough time, and with resources. We find it that way they don't spend their time, looking for it. But
When I addressed this team, the team early on, I told Ms. Shortridge that what I wanted to see was her staff out and about in the buildings and making sure that the teachers understood what to look for and then what intervention was. Intervention doesn't mean more worksheets.
The same way.
So and Ms. Shortridge has run with it, and this plan she's got developed here through iReady and the individualized instruction for these students is just knocking it out of the park. And our big thing now is follow through, making sure that we're out in the schools and that the teachers, once she presents everything like this, that they're following through with it and doing it. And it doesn't become another data notebook to go up on a shelf.
Right. Yeah.
So,
And that's so when I started, I met with principals first, because every school's different. And I said, what are your needs? How do you see my role in your school? It all looked different. And then I've been meeting a lot of schools. I camp out because we don't have subs and we don't have a good turnout in the evenings. Teachers are burnt out, they're tired. And we don't have any weekend people, very few that showed up last year. So what I do is I camp out during their planning period. I try to bring some cookies, sweets, and they come and I try to just let them guide me of what they need. And I was just going to show you an example really quick.
Okay.
So the first thing is that this is just from the State Department saying that iReady is a universal screener. It's checked all the boxes and it's vetted by them. So it does fit the House Bill 3035 as far as the screener goes. The second piece to this is I circled the cut scores. And so, Mr. Bellick, what you were saying as far as the growth every time that we want to see growth and that you feel like sometimes if those kids are growing, they change their cut scores from the State Department. So every time that we assess our students, they want us to look at a different cut score of how these kids are performing. So if that kid's not making that progress, then that's a red flag to them. And then we have to show what we're going to do about it. So that's the cut score for the first one in your packet is the cut score for reading. And the second one is the cut score for math. And then the biggie that I wanted to show you is kind of what you were saying. Based on that first iReady diagnostic, we had to send our data to the State Department. So if you look, it tells how many students were tested, how many students require intervention. And what a require intervention equates to is 2 grade bands below their grade level. So if they are 2 grade levels below, we have to develop an intervention plan and we have to notify their families because they're at risk for that retention in 2026. They're in kindergarten, then if they're on this cuts, if their cut score meets these guidelines, then they're at a potential risk. And so we sent that data to the State Department. And then we have to notify the parents. So this is the letter that I had drafted up and kind of got some feedback from the principals. And this is what we are sending out to notify our families that what we're doing. Number one, your kid's either deficient in ELA, deficient in math, or both.
Right.
And what are we doing?
Okay. I have advocated since I've been on the board that we need to be reporting to parents where their kids are at academically. Recently I saw where I did a thing on the grades that were given for a particular school. And they were all getting A, B's, and C's. And yet academically, now we're telling parents that your kids are excellent, good, or average, but they weren't. Now, I've been advocating for something on a report card, but what you're telling me now, if I understand it correctly, is that if a kid is behind grade level, 2 grade levels, that you are already notifying the parents that that student is behind.
Correct.
So in essence, you are doing what I want to do, except I want it 1 grade level, but
Well, and eventually.
We'll
it-
get there.
When you, well, no, when you look at the cut score, it's showing growth every time. So it's going to get harder every time to meet that score.
Now, when you give these and you send how many times do you send those to a parent?
We started training everyone. These will go out in January. Hamlin already did 1 round.
Okay.
Ms. Huffman, a lot of times is my guinea pig when it comes elementary. So they already did theirs, but, everyone will be doing them in January. We've started the training. And we have Title I and interventionists coming in when we come back from break. Because we wanted a solid rollout. It's not technically required yet, but at the sooner the better when it comes to this kind of stuff. But I want to do it right. So we're starting and trickling down our PD so that everyone's on the same page.
Well, let's say I'm a parent and I get a letter and my child is not done as well. Can I go to the school and get a correct answer that I can understand about where they are and why they're there and what's the plan is gonna be?
So there's a parent-friendly report that we're asking to be included with this from iReady. It breaks it down a little easier than some of the reports teachers tend to send home. The other thing is that I made like Mr. Bell, I think it suggested, but like a color-coded, a grade band of how that correlates. Because one thing that I did notice is when you look at I have kids, they do already. When I get it, if I don't, I know it in and out now at this point because it's my job, but if I look at that green band, it is a little hard to determine where the grade level
is.
ends
Yes.
and where the next one begins and where my kid falls based, because we're talking lexile and quantiles and the education level of a lot of our parents
It's not
are
there.
not there.
No, it's
So
not.
it's just a little strip that we're gonna staple to that report that says what grade level they're on.
Will these reports go in somewhat the same time our grade cards go out?
So no, because they only do it 3 times a year.
Okay,
Now
so
it'll
they-
hit the semester, usually it hits around the same time, so
And
January.
at that time, Joni, can parents who are just out there not figuring out anything, come in and talk to that teacher at the parent conference and
Oh, yeah.
they'll be brought up to that and we make them feel.
Yeah, on the bottom of that page there's a request for a meeting. so
Okay,
They can fill it out.
okay.
That's
Or
our
either a
goal
call.
is- And we just did videos. So I met with Mr. Williams. He's gonna put it on the county website. on Facebook, and I think he even talked about possibly Armstrong. I know Miss Lucas also just did a huge set with some of her teachers that are really strong in the phonics space, because that's where our struggle was. When I was talking data, I wanted to point you to the kindergarten, and when you have time, really look at the kindergarten, first grade data. We're not getting kids that are ready to learn.
My thought process
There
behind
is a
this
difference.
that we talk about with these videos is that if Ms. Shortridge sends this report home and it says their child struggling with adding 2-digit numbers, that's the concept they can't get. They can go back and look at this video of one of Lincoln County's teachers teaching a lesson
That
on
lesson.
how to do 2-digit numbers.
This is
And
on
they can watch that.
Armstrong
Yeah, that's
paper.
going to be.
That's,
Yeah. So he just sent them this week that he edited them, so they should be posted anytime. And then,
How far does Armstrong go? In our
Well,
county?
they don't cover the whole county,
No, they
they get the
don't.
most of it.
That's the thing of it, we don't,
Well, the ones that are on social media and on our website, we'll
Can
we'll
get that
get
too?
it there.
okay,
So it'll be in multiple venues.
okay.
If,
and there's a ton of resources that you don't even have to log in. You don't have to be good at a computer. Through iReady Central, it comes with iReady. There's lots and lots of resources of what to do with your kids. There's a fridge sheet you can print out and use, and they could just request that, if that's something they think they could use, the school, I know, would be happy, whatever school it is, would be happy,
Or the school could even sponsor an iReady workshop for.
A lot of them do.
Good.
Yeah, a lot of them do. They do a technology night a lot of times, and it's iReady and Schoology are the two main things. I know I work with Miss Burton even, because a lot of her grand family, that's a focus, is they come in and they learn.
Yeah, this really helps them if they feel included in understanding what they're reading and what's going on in school. It just is better for the children,
Well,
first of all.
Together
We
to move. I mean, we're a good 10% below. The first goal, I try to be realistic. Our first goal is to be with the state, where the state's scoring. We're 10%
Below that.
below that right now. That's not okay.
No, it isn't.
So we've got work to do, and we've got to do it together.
Yeah.
And that's
Not just us and not just them.
exactly.
but Joni, you're our expert.
I don't know about that.
Well,
You're our worker bee.
you got the job, so you're the expert.
You're the worker bee.
If I could make a suggestion here, I, you know, whether I learned much or not, I'm still classified as an educated person with my degrees. But at the same time, I look at the iReady data that we give out in the past, and I look at the wording on here, and it's educational jargon.
It's hard.
When-
That's required.
I know, but that's so
Well,
hard, Joni, for somebody to read
It's,
that.
it's, when we're talking about assessments and cut scores and research-based and interventions, and I don't know that an awful lot of parents
Would
would
know,
know that, and it's kind of frightening.
it is.
Is there a
Me.
way that we can simplify this form to put everything in common language? That's like that little brochure that you all did or for us, just put it in common language.
How, like a brochure that explains it?
That would be even better.
Well, I'm not so sure it would, because the more stuff you get, the less you
Yeah, maybe
actually read.
maybe you could do
Uh,
one at the beginning of the year
But
and
I think
one in the middle or so.
I am such a stickler that I think parents ought to know how their kids
Are
are
doing.
performing.
I do too.
Principal Porter sitting there, she's got 6 through 8, correct? And all of those are iReady. Okay, 6 through 8 and iReady. She should be having something sent to the parents that says, hey, your kid is not on the 6th grade level. It's
The next thing.
he's behind. Your kid is on the 7th grade level. We should be telling them when they're above level as well.
Yeah,
So parents just should know where their kids are educationally at. Your kid is behind, he's not on level. This is what we're doing to try to get him up to level. This is what you as a parent can
Can
do
do.
at home to get him up to level. Watch our videos, do whatever. We need to make parents a partner in what we are doing, but they can't be a partner in their kids' education if they don't understand exactly what level their kid's on.
They won't even.
I know the fallacy of report cards of A, B's, and C's, and kids make the scores on the test and we send them home. Teachers who send the most grades home are always considered the best teachers because, hey, my kid got A's. But we really need to be informing parents, making them a partner in the educational process. And I think the iReady, from what I have heard in the past and from what you tell me, I'm assuming that Principal Porter is an iReady fan here. So, if I'm just preaching and I don't know where I'm headed with this, other than I really want scores, accurate scores given to parents so that we don't depend on that progress report. We should be having a grade report and a progress report. The progress report is what we typically have called the grade card, but it's the progress that kid's making. Yeah, he's doing great. He's doing excellent in school, but that's not the grade he's on. He's one grade behind. So
But he's got
we
an
need
A.
to be informing parents correctly.
But he's got an A.
So,
That's usually all they look at.
so anyway, that's my concern. This is a lot of data. I'm gonna have to go through this. I'll probably be calling, you with Mr. Barnett's permission to decipher some of this in the time
Absolutely.
being.
One thing I wanted to kind of talk about was, number one, when that letter goes home, there's a parent-friendly report that says next steps. So it says exactly what to do with their children, whether it's math-based or reading-based. And it may be read to me, talk about what we've read,
Okay,
and it gives them suggestions.
In
So
parent
that's
language.
that's in addition to that letter.
okay.
The letter I took from several, from the House bill, from research, but there's certain guidelines that we have to say in the House bill, but what we could do is maybe do a little bit, of explaining it better in more family-friendly terms. But we do have to say the cut score and the intervention, it's in House Bill 3035.
But they wouldn't know.
The notification piece, that it's strictly set, I took the language.
I know what a cut score is, but I don't think most
Right.
parents.
No, that's right. That's
And
what I'm
that's just
saying. They don't know
take
that.
down, but, I think we could make it, maybe more family friendly. That's where too, we wanted to put at the bottom if they had concerns to kind of reach their school. Cause at the end of the day, they've got to work with their teacher in their
Mhm.
school.
And they have to
to-
come to those
do
meetings
these
with them and
things.
let them talk about their child with that parent. And that's, I think, will help us because Joni, I don't want to be negative and I don't want you to think I am. There are very few parents who could understand.
I agree.
Very few.
I agree. So what we did is we developed a, intervention plan and I got with Mr. Miller, because I wanted it to be consistent. We already have a SAT plan. And so what we did was we revamped the, intervention plan and we made this one plan. So there's not going to be a SAT plan and an intervention plan, per the House bill. And then the House bill currently only requires an intervention plan K through 3, but we went ahead and went all the way up to K through 8. Okay, and so this parents will be involved in, they'll get a copy of, and it's 2 pages. And basically they just, we first determine, and it's color coded, so it should be pretty family friendly and it correlates to iReady. So green means universal. They're not quite, there's not a big deficit. Yellow means they're at least 1 grade level and it's a targeted intervention. And then red is intensive, like that student's really struggling and they've moved on to the intensive intervention in their tiered system of support. We revisit these every 2 to 3 weeks. If they're SAT, they have to be revisited for 45 days, but it keeps it consistent. And that's where we're training our Title I and our interventionists. We're bringing them in. So we're tag teaming so that we're all talking the same talk, and we're consistent. And then, I just gave you a sample of what I've been doing. regards to, we have this data, now what are we doing with it? And so the State Department has rolled out a new piece, it's called a non-summative assessment, and it's, called test authoring. And I wish I had it when I was a teacher. It's, you can take, test bank questions and you can make your own assessments, and it scores it for you. And so, that's what I've been doing is camping out at schools, training teachers. We've been drilling down their data and then looking at the tools through this test authoring piece, and targeting those standards that are yellow in our general summative scores from last year. And I gave you a sample of that. So, this is what I've been kind of doing with schools. We've been looking at the state scores, how we scored as a district. And then we've been drilling down into their actual school. And I gave you, kind of how that would look. And then if you look over here, it tells you the week standards based on our data from last year. So we're taking that week score because that's either a lack, something in an instruction or something in our curriculum. And so we're pulling in those test authoring pieces, and we're using that in the classroom. Some teachers are choosing to use it as a bell ringer. I've heard others are, I know in math, or specifically, I know Hamlin, they like to use it as like an assessment, a pre-assessment and a post-assessment, but they said it's good data, computer scores it. And it's exposing the students to what the language of the test is going to look like in the spring, as well as test taking strategies. So.
Okay.
I'm looking at these scores and, diagnostic results. For instance, it looks like to me, Midway is 11%, versus 98% at Lincoln County High School.
So Lincoln County High School, that was something I was gonna touch on and I got sidetracked. Lincoln County High School is just special ed. We purchased that for the only diagnostic. They do not have any of the intervention tools. So it's just special ed. It's good data to have when writing an IT, so that's why we didn't have really a good formative assessment base for the IT. Yeah,
All right.
I had that in my notes.
I looked at that, I was like, oh,
Their little
Yeah.
hearts were a little bit big.
Really a way to pull them in unless I contact Irene and get a personalized report, which I can do if you want to see that. But the other thing that I wanted to point out real quick, I know I've jumped around, so I
That's all right.
apologize, is you should have a what's called a personalized instruction summary at the back of each of those folders. So the back of the actual folder.
Oh, that folder.
And has a pie chart on it. And so what that is that has grown as well when you look at it from previous years. And this shows how many lessons our students have been on in the personalized learning piece. So those lessons that are tailored just to where their deficits are and where they are, and how they've scored. So we want to be in that 70 to 100% range. So this is your like differentiated instruction piece. And then it shows how long they're on. So how long they're actually engaged and on. And what a good guide is we don't want to use it as a babysitter and we don't want to use it to replace curriculum. So a good guide is 40 minutes a week for ELA and 40 minutes a week for math, which is approximately 2.5 hours a month. So that's around where we are because I did a custom report for you that started.
It's one of these for the kid.
Now this is for you, but yes, their report looks kind of, the teacher's personalized learning looks similar, but it's by students.
Yeah,
Because every
but,
student,
but the parent of the student gets one of these.
they get a family friendly report and.
Their
what they
child
get is-
Only or their child in the school.
No, they just get their child
Okay.
and they get where their child is scoring based on the current standards of the grade level they're in
Okay,
Right.
and some next steps.
okay.
Okay,
I know it's a lot to unpack. So
Oh, it is.
yeah, it is, but
It-
you've
it is,
been
but
most helpful.
Yeah. It would just be hard to, it would be hard to be a parent and not be an educator to kind of go through all
my
this.
child's in Next officer.
Yeah, that would be just, that's terrifically hard.
I feel better.
You know, another thing with that too, that we've kind of talked about as far as with principals and teachers is getting the students more involved and understanding their data. Now, my kids are abnormally involved. to the
Wonder
point
why,
I think I'm creating
wonder why.
Adam monsters, but, you know, if they're invested and involved and understand, then maybe they can help their parents too, because sometimes we can make that letter as family friendly as possible, but they may not read it, may not come out of the backpack, but if kids talking about it at home,
Are
they're
those staff
excited about it.
used to have, they're still around or some semblance of that, some semblance of that?
I know Hamlin does them,
Okay.
This is on their iPad as well, right? Okay.
There was someone, did some training or something about the data notebooks. Do you do that? Did you do that
We
one?
did that on walls.
Okay, which is it's still the same thing.
Yes,
something
it's like
different.
every kid gets inspired that only they would know and their teacher would know, like kind of code and And then, it's up on each wall, sixth grade math, they have their little bulletin board and it shows like the child. But like, I think you had cars last year, so as one particular student, it would be their car and they move it
Yeah.
where they fell the next time. So they do that for math and English for
I think
grade.
we should do that in all of it. So.
Anybody got any other questions for
Thank you, Jamie.
yep.
Mr.
Good
Shortridge?
job, kiddo.
I appreciate you taking your time and coming in and educating us old folks on this. Well, I would certainly like for you to be back if it's Mr. Barnett's wishes to, when the next round of iReady results come in,
Sure.
that you come back and share those with us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Lucas, is the school library funds, is that included in the levy or is that no longer there?
It actually hasn't been there since 2019.
Okay,
Uh,
all right.
There's still some small balances with some of the schools that we're trying to get principals to spend. So they don't maintain a physical library any longer. They can buy books or,
To
you
classroom,
know,
to go to classroom.
some sort of technology, supplement for book materials.
Okay, so if somebody's trying to start a library,
If they- I actually think Dr. Porter's
Well, I've hit
She's-
everybody up.
She's,
The library.
I think she's actually used all, like when I sent that
Oh,
out,
yes, right.
she spent it, so I think she's.
I said, anybody that's not using it, please send it my direction.
Immediate beg,
Okay.
to everybody.
if the other schools aren't going to get them, maybe they can give them to her. She's utilizing it, so.
I'll check.
All right, thank you both. I appreciate both of you coming, talking with us tonight. Okay, takes us to item 4, approve the minutes of the October 26th, 30, November 2nd meeting and October 31st and November 7th. We got a lot of them on there.
I'll second it, Jeremy.
Wilson motioned, Burns seconds, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? None. Under administrative items, any discussion? Discussion on item E, Duval demolition, the one we've been waiting for, to reclaim company LLC and the amount of 428,000 and change.
Whose number?
That's,
Let's vote on that quick.
that's,
It's away from us.
Woo.
did the company give us any indication when they would start on this demolition?
There's, go ahead.
Well, yes, that's when, how soon we want them.
So it's this weekend.
Said in the morning at 9 o'clock.
They're ready to go?
I think what they'll do after we approve this, I think they'll run it by the SBA. There's a few documents they have to do. And I
We sign.
believe, I think he said probably no later than mid-December.
Well,
Right.
let's call him in the morning and tell him we voted on it tonight.
I believe-
All right.
I believe he said mid-
I'm sure some of my former students are gonna be in on this demolition. They did their best to tear it up when I had them.
Hey, look here, I know a bunch that could probably do it for $20.
Oh, well, okay. Any other discussion? Under item I, just, for you board members that maybe not have heard Mr. Barnett, Superintendent Barnett talk about it. The HVAC at Hamlin PK8, 2.9 million, almost $3 million.
Yeah,
Comes from ESSER funds, that's COVID funds.
yes.
And, by all indications, that's been checked out and it's a legal purchase. You may have gotten some information from, School Board Association President Jim Brown about the different, counties and after I deciphered through that, what I came up with was that, Lincoln County did pretty good on all their COVID spending money.
And continue to
A
do.
couple of things were technicalities in there really, but we did well and I'll give Mr. Lucas again credit. I've been bragging on him a lot lately.
Thankfully, we had several people hard on that grant.
So-
We had Mr. Gaines, we had Luke, so.
But this purchase on Hamlin is legitimate purchase on COVID funds.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can do the HVAC projects.
Okay.
State Department of Education.
Okay,
We're okay on that.
any other discussion? If not, I'll ask for a motion and a second to
So
approve.
moved.
Pistori makes the motion to tear down Duval.
And Dana said yes.
Dana Snyder seconds it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right, brings us to finance. Any discussion? Motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
Burns,
Second.
Wilson, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Like to pay our bills.
Under the personnel schedule, that's your blue sheet. Any discussion? Not, I'll ask for a motion.
I'd say Dallas Plumley's done a good job.
And I hate
Gonna
to
miss
see,
him.
yes, indeed.
So,
Indeed.
Did we accept his resignation
Yeah,
once
we did.
before?
Well, we did, but this is official.
This is the one on real paper. Yeah.
Yeah,
He changed the day. Yeah,
Now he's decided to finish the year out.
and he's finishing it out now.
he's gonna stay with us out the year.
Yeah.
Okay,
Dana did the motion.
All right,
I
well, he does
seconded
has done a fine job and,
We'll never get anybody
Uh,
else.
wish him well on his retirement. I had Pistori make the motion. Do I have a second? Burns,
Yeah, well, whoever, whatever.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Before we go into executive session on student discipline, we'll jump down to the comments and concerns section. I just gotta make a comment here. Last board meeting, whenever that was, seems like it was a long time ago. Donna Martin, representing the Ranger area, made a statement that I didn't give her enough time. We were limiting people to 3 minutes and she said that she didn't have 3 minutes. Well, I went back and looked at that video and she actually had 9. So I just wanted to make that part of the record that she was given far more time than anybody else. Of course, Duval update. We got to tear it down before we can build.
Right.
Any update on the building?
Got a meeting on the 27th of this month with the architect to finalize conceptuals and then get it on the SBA's agenda, get it out to bid.
Right.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Austin, once we take it out to bid, does it have to wait to the formal SBA meeting in March? Or can they
Can we do it
do
before?
that?
I believe there's an avenue for unscheduled appropriation, if needed.
Since this is.
It's certainly
this is
needed.
not a new project. This is a
Yeah, I
project
mean,
that's
I
being
believe
Did
rebid.
somebody
I
call
believe
them a
there's
check?
request for
on
that.
Yeah.
So if it's done and out to bid and it's end of December, I don't think we'll have to wait till mid-March to get any additional
Okay.
funding, but I do know that Mr. Barnett can correct me. I believe there is a avenue for a
That's what
request.
the fellow that was here last week.
Shanty.
Shanty. That's what he was saying. And we're hoping, because looking at the way the new design is, that on the last round go around, there was a tremendous amount of earth that had to be moved and a lot of that mountain cut off, which is a great big expense. A lot of that expense is going to disappear because the earth that's being moved will be used right on site.
So it doesn't have to be
Doesn't have to
taken
be
off.
hauled off anywhere. So, and there's not as much being cut out of that mountain, so I think that that's gonna save some money too, but, like I said, all we can do is cross our fingers and toes, but we've been talking to, and Austin's been talking to, Mr. Womack from the SBA, and he seems pretty positive about things, and it's a really good sign, number one, that they said, yeah, here's your green light to get it torn down. That's a good sign.
Okay, all right.
The sooner the better.
The continuation of the discussion from last board meeting about bus drivers and enticing bus drivers to sign on in the county and to give the ones we've got additional money. I want to start this discussion by saying effective July 1. We don't want to do this in the middle of the year, do we?
No.
July 1.
Yes.
We're giving Mr. Barnett some parameters so that we can get this approved next week. July 1's a start date,
Okay.
and we bounced we bounced a figure around left and right here. I would like to commence the conversation with a suggestion to all of you that we increase the bus drivers $1,500 a year. I know that's many of them were hoping for more, but I think that's a good safe place to start. That's about a $7 and so many cents on a day. That gets them close. Austin, when does the levy that passed last year, when does it take effect? Okay,
July
now
1st.
I have to confirm that.
we also had an increase for all service personnel on that levy. I have since forgotten what it was, and that's why I was so adamant in trying to make sure we put that figure in the levy call, but it's not there. You may be the only person that remembers what we actually raised service personnel to.
I'll need to confirm, but I believe it was $500.
They were getting 7. What I remember is that we took them up to 1,400.
I think the teacher would get X amount and then the state paid X amount. I think we were trying to make that ladder, like if the teachers got 1,000, the state gave 1,000. The state gave 500, we
We were given 500.
No, I think you're confusing two different things. We used,
Did several things. You did $500 additional yearly wages to service staff with the new levy. Now, that'll have to be built into the salary schedule some sort of way that I haven't figured out how to do yet, but I'll get, somebody will help me on that. And then your attendance incentives,
yeah, that's a separate thing.
that's separate. But he was talking about 500, 1,000 different things. That's similar to what that was. And then potential for the bus driver portion.
We were giving professional personnel, I forget what the figure was. They were getting a significant, under the old levy, the levy currently in effect. Professional personnel were getting like 1,200 and service personnel were getting 700, I think. I think we were trying to give them both the same. I don't, that's why it was so important for us to put that number in that levy call. And we didn't do it. If you would find that out for us, Austin, give us those figures. But we add that figure of what the increase is onto this 1,500, and that brings our drivers close to Cabell County. That was our goal to begin with. And I think we're just about there when we do that, but, we'll have all that on the agenda
Next week.
next week to approve if you and Mr. Barnett can talk and iron that out, but, we want to approve an incentive next to, not a incentive. We want to improve that, raise and the mechanism to do it. It can be done with a daily wage thing like what we did before. Mr. Barnett knows what. I'm talking
We've
about.
also discussed a sign-on bonus, and I think that we ought to start that in July as well for a new driver.
Yeah.
Not necessarily brand new, but new to our county. And I think that we ought to hold that money literally till the end of the year, the whole year,
Make sure
That's
they
what-
make the year.
That's what Austin's been working on today.
and not half in December.
Right.
And I think
Right.
to say, you serve the whole year,
You
there's
get
your
it
bonus.
then. Right.
I'm gonna figure out the details on that. There was mention of a state statute that says if you do an incentive, I'm confirming that. Someone in school finance told me today that you couldn't wait to pay it. You had to pay it immediately. Now, I'm gonna verify that.
You mean at the beginning of the year?
That would be information that I'll verify and that you guys would have to have in front of you before you,
That-
you know, decide one way or the other. Kind of defeats the purpose, but I
Would
did
it
get
be
that from somebody that said.
Yeah.
Fallback on that, or?
Well, I told him on the phone that that's something that needs to be,
Looked at.
they need to work with the legislature and get it replaced.
Maybe it's just the language, use the word
But
pension,
I'm
maybe
gonna-
you just call it something else and pay it how you
I'm
want.
gonna figure out.
Yeah, you know,
Nobody before.
we
paid
do
that.
coaches and everybody else, you
No.
pay them at the end of the term. So I don't know why we couldn't do that, but find that out for us. Okay, we'll have that on the agenda next week, next Wednesday. Jody will not be here next Wednesday. He's going to be in Disneyland in California,
With.
Are you going to work?
Mountain State.
with Mountain
Okay.
State ESC.
Perhaps
I
you
have
don't
a,
go out there and work.
I have a comment / concern.
Okay.
Friday, the 17th, I was up at Guy Valley, doing some signups for Lincoln County Youth Basketball League, but they were also hosting a scrimmage there with Buffalo, the boys, JV and varsity.
Mhm.
With the scrimmage, they had like 5 referees there doing some training as well. And we set up shop, the youth league, right there at the doorway where the administrator also stands as people are coming in the entranceway. And so I overheard the conversation of 3 out of the 5 referees say that there has to be a 28-foot line from the baseline on the gym floor. That's for taking the ball out on the one side, and it also serves for another purpose as the coach's box on the opposite, where the coaches are at on that side of the floor. So I would venture to say that none of the
School
gyms
has
in the
that.
county, if they've
have
been
that.
done by the same people, have that 28-foot line.
Do we know that coach is correct?
Huh?
Do we know that coach is correct in what he's saying, or that referee?
He's an
Yeah,
official, I'd say
It's a
yes.
WVSSAC.
Yeah, I'd say.
Well, that has, I mean, that's the Secondary Schools Athletic Commission is a, what do you say? They're not a governing body, they're a, whatever the body they are, they can't force schools to do that unless the State Department of Education approves
Make
it.
the rule.
So they may recommend that, but it may not be a State Department rule.
So
We need to find out.
Find out.
well, yeah, we need to find that
Yeah,
out. But
but-
3 out of the 5, I know for sure said that, of course, they didn't cancel the scrimmage that night, but said that
No,
they
'cause
could
they're
not
gonna
play a
get paid
game
per check
if they
at the
didn't
end of
have
the
that
day.
line there.
So is this relating to the refinishing that was just done, or is this just something that's been like that forever?
I don't know that it's been that way forever, but it's certainly not been that way since the floor
The
has
floor
been done
was done.
currently. At one point, I know there was coaches' boxes on that floor. I don't know when that was done away with. But
I was just asking, because they just had support. Some of the
so, let me speak to that point. Yes, most of the floors in the county have been refinished recently. And instead of, this was a recommendation from the referees, instead of, sanding that down and repainting the line, that there's some athletic tape that you can put across to give that line, for the time being.
Okay.
So it's not like you have to redo the whole floor now,
Right, right.
but
Okay.
that's an option.
Next time you do it.
I'm sure Mr. Barnett's on that. will figure that out for us. Do we have any other, concerns? If not,
My head hurts.
I'm gonna ask for a motion and a second to enter into,
I'll make that motion.
Burns makes a motion to enter into executive session for student matters.
I'll second.
Pistori seconds,
We can hurry.
and the time is 8:40. Boy, we're long tonight. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? None? And we will, recess into executive session.